This is the Chinatown Memorial Monument, a monument which stands in the center of Vancouver, Chinatown, that represents a wide group of first-generation Chinese Canadians who fought for their honor and freedom for their future generations. To commemorate these brave Chinese Canadians, Arthur Sun Ren Chen designed a monument and unveiled it on November 2, 2003. The square that the monument resides in now grants visitors a space of reflection and commemoration. Arthur also specifically built two bronze statues dedicated to Chinese Canadian soldiers during World War II and the Chinese Canadian workers during the construction of the transnational railway. In the first bronze statue, Chen creates a representation of a Chinese railway worker who appears to be carrying a shovel with a heavy bag on his back. Around 1,500 Chinese workers were sent to work under harsh conditions with little pay during the railway construction between 1881 and 1885. Their salary was around $1 compared to the white workers who received $1.30 to $2.30 in addition to having free provisions. They were also given dangerous assignments in handling explosive or rocks, which led many to their deaths. It was clear that there was already a conscious thought of maintaining white supremacy during the railway's construction. With photos that purposely removed Chinese workers from the completion of the work, there was a strong, ingrained thought of how to portray the railway within the white Canadians. This would soon lead to political actions to maintain the hierarchy of the race. After the construction of the railway, the Canadian government attempted to control ongoing waves of Chinese immigrants in Canada by implementing a head tax in 1885. It started at $50, but would soon increase to $100 in 1900s and later $500 in 1903, as it failed to slow down immigration from China to Canada. Chinese Canadians were also suppressed in businesses as well, while well-paid jobs were unavailable towards them. Chen builds yet another bronze statue dedicated towards all the Chinese Canadian soldiers in World War II. The statue symbolizes the patriotism and the dedication that the Chinese Canadian soldiers brought to their communities at home. It is also important to recognize the Chinese soldiers who fought during World War I. Prior to the Second War, the Chinese community continued to face discrimination and segregation even after their sacrifices and contributions to Canada's massive railway. Even after 200 Chinese Canadians volunteered to fight for Canada, their expectations of coming back to a more accepting Canada shattered as no improvements were made and the head tax continued to exist, which later became the Chinese Immigration Act in 1923 that completely stunted community growth within Chinatown. By World War II, many Chinese Canadians were questioning on helping a country that would not even grant them equal rights as others. Furthermore, several branches of the Canadian Armed Forces would turn down Asiatic groups due to the fear of granting more rights after the war. Despite these obstacles, 600 Chinese Canadians volunteered as this was the only opportunity to truly make change with Canada's issues of racial equality. During the war, the Chinese Canadians were assigned to blend into southeastern countries and sabotage Japanese lines, which had established influence throughout their empire. These spy troops were known as Force 136 and had to survive the jungle heat and wildlife with little communication and no reinforcements. By the end of the war, World War II's cultural and racial genocides such as the Holocaust or the raping of Nanjing challenged the standard perception of the Chinese communities in Canada. By 1947, 2 years after the war, all Chinese Canadian citizens earned the right to vote officially, and the Chinese Immigration Act was repealed. These reforms illuminated the effects of the 600 Chinese Canadian soldiers from World War II, and how their bravery paved the way of Chinese Canadians to finally overcome injustice in Canada. In present day, it continues to symbolize the qualities of cooperation, courage, resilience, and thoughtfulness of the first-generation Chinese Canadians between the railway construction and the Second World War. However, being built in 2003, the memorial represents a wider group of first-generation Chinese Canadians, including those who continued to fight due to the stigma of white supremacy and social discrimination against the minority after the war. The space creates an area to reflect, connect, and learn about the legacies of these Chinese Canadians in order to further promote the racial equality and enfranchisement found in Canada.